सबको नमस्कार.
Namaskar.
Good evening, Sarji.
Thank you, Soniji. You're doing a miracle job for MESC, trust me, and so
Sure,
as
sure.
JSG, and so as Subbarao Garu is trying to do his best from the central level. So we have a good team here. I think we need to take it forward in the best way to employ the youth of our nation.
Sure, sir. Thank you for your kind words.
Pleasure is mine, sir.
Absolutely, that's our objective.
Sir, when we have great people like you, JSG has been trying this for, as far as I know, since 2012. As far as I know, he's been after that, and without him, we would have not been what we are here in Telangana state. Papireddy Bhai Sahab, namaskaram. మీరు కూడా మైక్ ఆన్ చేసుకునాలా?
Everybody.
Namaskar. And our higher education chairman is trying to do his level best to get the colleges going here. And our TS policy, which has been the image policy, which is 1,000 crores worth of a facility which is being built under the, help of J.S. Garu. And Papireddy Garu is trying to help all he can to get the educational system going in a right way so that we have the ecosystem. And with the KTR Garu there and J.S. Garu there, we will have a lot of international companies coming over here, without a doubt. But we need to have a properly trained people in our nation. So, well, we're trying our best. Your mic is off. Yeah.
Sir, since all of our guests have joined, if you permit me to start the session, I would love to start the session.
Please.
Thank you very much, sir. A very good evening to all. I'm Junaid Sayyar, General Manager Operations for DigiQuest India Limited. And thank you all for being with us this evening. I'm really excited that we have most distinguished people who are going to be on the panel this evening. I'm pleased and honored to welcome them all to the session. They would enlighten us about the importance of skill-oriented courses in higher education, more specifically in gaming, animation, and visual effects domains, and also about the future employment opportunities in these sectors. Our first and the most revered panelist is Sri VLV Subbarao Garu. Sri Subbarao Garu has over 30 years of experience. He has worked in various departments of Government of India as a Director, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas, Director, Ministry of Rural Development, Advisor, Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. In addition, he served as Senior Economic Advisor to Ministry of Human Resources and Development. Currently, Mr. Rao is serving as Senior Economic Advisor with Electronics and Information Technology. Our second and the most esteemed panelist is Professor T. Papireddy Garu. Professor Papireddy Garu is a towering personality. He has from genetics scholar and chairman of Department of Genetics to becoming technical expert of International Atomic Energy Agency in Vienna. Because of his varied intellectual capabilities and caliber, He held many coveted positions like expert member, University Grants Commission, New Delhi. He was also the coordinator of the UGC Committee for strengthening infrastructural facilities for science and technology. He has been playing a vital role in strengthening higher education and making it accessible to a wider reach. As the chairman of Telangana State Council of Higher Education, our third panelist is the most distinguished personality, Sri Jayesh Ranjanji, IAS. Jayesh Ranjanji is a multifaceted personality, multifariously qualified, and talented in various spheres of human endeavor. He is a member of the Indian Administrative Services, a gold medalist, an All India topper of his IAS batch of 1992. He has done international consultancy assignments for the World Bank, UNESCO, TEGATU project of Mexico, and for international NGOs working for youth issues like Youth Incorporated of the United States of America and NMC from Italy. He is part of the National Pool of Trainers in Leadership, constituted by the Government of India, and is involved in training and mentoring newly recruited civil servants. Jayesh Ranjanji is the Principal Secretary of the Information Technology and Communications Department and Industries and Commerce Department of the Telangana government. His assignments involves developing policy frameworks, attracting new investments, identifying opportunities of utilizing IT in various government processes, and promoting digital empowerment of the citizens. The last few assignments have been in the industrial promotion sector as the Commissioner and Managing Director of the Industries Department, as well as the Secretary in the Tourism Promotion Department and the Vice Chairman of the Hyderabad Urban Development Authority, all for 2 to 3 years. He also looked after various rural assignment projects in different parts of the state for over 12 years, working in diverse sectors like tribal development, natural resource development, and poverty alleviation and other related social development sectors. I am sure today we will gain valuable information about the Telangana government's most prestigious policy, that is image policy, which is his brainchild. Today's topic is most relevant to him. Our fourth and a very important panelist is Sri K. Basireddy Garu. He is a technocrat, a visionary, a futurist. More than all, he is a true patriot. He has come back to India to serve his motherland after spending 30 years in the United States. Mr. Reddy has played a crucial role in transformation of digital technology in India, which has created a huge revolution. And he was the first person to introduce digital technology into films in India for the first time in 2003. Later, he aspired to make Hyderabad as a world-class gaming and animation hub in India. He endeavored to bring out a special and specific policy for the development of animation, visual effects, gaming, and comics industry in Andhra Pradesh. He was the influential person from initiating, conceptualizing the game policy in the combined state of Andhra Pradesh, which was launched by the government of Andhra Pradesh in January 2014. However, after the bifurcation of combined state with its dedicated efforts, it has been carried forward by the current government and relaunched as image policy in 2016. It was one of his greatest achievements, which echoes his futuristic vision. Mr. Reddy has also been contributing as a member of CII, National Media and Entertainment Committee, since 2012, Executive Member of Film Federation of India since 2013, Vice President of the Telugu Film Chamber of Commerce since 2017, Secretary of the Telugu Film Studio Sector since 2012. He is the founding president of Animation, Visual Effects, Comics and Gaming Industry Association in Telangana, which is now called as Telangana Visual Effects, Animation and Gaming Association. Since he was an organizing committee member also for 18th International Children's Film Festival during 2013. He also had served as jury member for several Nandi Award committees. Mr. Basireddy ji has been awarded the most prestigious Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Lifetime Achievement National Award for his remarkable achievements in the field of film, animation, visual effects, and gaming industry. This was awarded by the International Institute for Social and Economic Reform, Bengaluru, in 2019. Mr. Reddy is the chairman and managing director of DigiQuest India Limited, and he is also the promoting partner for CN, which is formerly known as Infotech Enterprises Limited. Our fifth young and dynamic panelist is Sri Mohit Soniji. Mohitji has started his career as a graphic designer and animator in a small studio at Gwalior, and thereafter established the biggest and largest multimedia training and production facility at Gwalior in Madhya Pradesh. His passion towards establishing the media training industry is highly visible, with his significant contribution to almost all prominent media training brands we know in the country today. With more than 18 years of extensive experience in developing new business alliance, channel network, and setting up partnerships with international and Indian academic institutes and universities. Mohitji is now establishing some of the Mohitji is known for establishing some of the finest brands in India, which are like Spectrum Media, IIFM, Picasso Animation, Rainbox, and many more. With his profound experience in building startups and new generation businesses, Mr. Mohit is presently spearheading the Media and Entertainment Skills Council as Chief Executive Officer. I am delighted that today these distinguished personalities would enlighten us with their valuable insight. So I request the audience to give your full attention and help me in giving a warm welcome to all of them for this very important session. I request the panel now to start the session. Shall we start, sir? I sincerely request Sri Subba Rao Garu to share his valuable words of wisdom and his vision with us about the education industry and its link in creative field. Also about the road involving all stakeholders to promote jobs in these sectors. Subba Rao, sir.
Just one second, Syed. Just let me interrupt. Probably the people here participating is only 13.
Thank you so much, Syed.
Sirji, 1 second. There may be only 13 people here, but sir, this is being YouTube. We didn't want to have too many people here so that we want to avoid this. So it's been broadcasted all over the YouTube, sir. Thank you. Please.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. So my greetings to all of you and my omnibus greetings to all the people who are watching through other forms. This particular program. Now we have this is a very topical theme that you've selected, and it's also very timely because this is the moment where the country is confronted with a serious employment and employability problem for its youth, and it's the youth who represent the aspirations of a country, and therefore the caliber of a country is decided on how we plan for our youth and how we treat the aged. That's about all. These are the two social indicators for any developed country. And therefore, in terms of our college system, our youth, and the way we've been tackling the issues of employability, there is a huge gap between our education system and what the industry needs by way of employment. The industry and the service sector have been growing at an autonomous pace on their own over the decades. But our education system has failed to capture the requirements of the industry and the tertiary sectors in their day-to-day curricula, which have remained painfully the same over years, and with some exceptions here and there where private institutions have tried to align their activities with those of the changing needs of industry. But on the whole, if you look at it, today we have about 50 to 55 lakh general graduate students in our country from the college system who pass out without any employment avenue whatsoever. The second divisioners, the third divisioners, a whole lot of people who shouldn't have been in college in the first place doing history, sociology, or economics, when they would have been forced into it because they didn't get engineering or didn't get some other thing. And they would have also got into it because there were no skilling avenues available to them. Avenues offered by our various sector skill councils, which are a recent development. And now these have to be integrated into the education system. So the skilling, which has been taking place on a fragmented system across the country through the PMKVY and through some service providers who are operating very well on their own, like DigiQuest itself, if I may say so, and so many people like this who are offering their courses in response to the felt needs of the industry. They all have to be, their activities also have to be dovetailed into an operational framework that goes hand in hand with the education system, which is absolutely recognized by UGC's guideline framework. And the whole thing is built up as a vertical in the education system. So now we are coming down to the media and entertainment sector. Media and entertainment as a sector, now COVID, we are now in the midst of the COVID. There's nothing like a post-COVID world. It is a COVID world for the foreseeable future, because what we are following now as emergency measures are likely to stay in for years to come. And therefore, we have to visualize the future growth of any industry, including the media and entertainment, in a COVID framework. And in a COVID framework, what we are likely to see is big filmmaking, big budget filmmaking, all these have been pushed into the background temporarily, we all hope so. But other forms of animation, gaming, and AR, VR, all these other forms of the media, the social media, all these are actually going to exponentially increasing. The use of Netflix and so on, where entertainment has become more personalized in-house, and which lends itself to multiple entrants and stakeholders into the process, because there is no creativity. Just creativity is the fastest to tune itself to any changing environment. And this media and entertainment sector, barring the big budget films, everything else is actually will continue to be on a growth path, since the very method of us viewing entertainment has become very personalized. Therefore, in the present scenario, media and entertainment is likely to see a huge growth in the adoption by the people in our country, by the students, by the youth. And to make this more organized, what the ministry has done is, we have attempted in the last 4 months, I'm now restricting myself only to the media and entertainment sector. We have had the industry and education system interaction meets. We have had 3 of them. We've called them Manthans, one in Hyderabad, one in Mumbai, and one in Delhi, where we got together close to 800 odd institutions to come together, discuss these courses. 5 courses have been developed in gaming, animation, AR, VR, and 5 such courses. Therefore, these courses, we saw that there was a huge response to these courses which have been developed. And instead of pursuing formal degrees, these have been now nomenclatured as BSc in gaming or BSc in animation, BSc in filmmaking, and so on. These have received great response. And irrespective of a COVID world, these courses are likely to be very relevant. And only the method of instruction will now change to largely an online mode in the foreseeable future, with an industry apprenticeship thrown in the final semester. Now, these courses which have come are the product of a very serious effort on the part of the Media and Entertainment Sector Skill Council, and the ministry and the UGC have been pushing and promoting this exercise. And from the ministry's side, we have realized only one thing, that the universities and the college system need the flexibility to adopt these courses on a massive scale without any hindrance or a policy hindrance or a guideline hindrance whatsoever. So a clarification has been issued, reiterated sometime in the early March. Copies have been given to all, that in a 70-30 ratios of skilling versus classroom education, any university or college can pursue any skill course. And as a skill course, you can give it any nomenclature. You can call it a BSc in gaming. Just the skill should be in the parenthesis. That's all. So no UGC is going to come in the way as long as you follow that. And apart from that, for vertical mobility of these students of these skill-oriented degree courses, they can straight away pursue an MBA in a general MBA also based on this course. That clarification has also been provided based on the past UGC guidelines. So on the face of it, there is nothing to prevent full-scale degree courses in media entertainment to be adopted by any college in the country, by any university in the country. And we have already seen about 80 universities and colleges having given their consent. And ultimately, it's the university which gives the degree. So the universities and their academic councils, once they have cleared it, there is nothing stopping these courses from taking over. So the Media and Entertainment Sector Skill Council would have had its MOUs with these institutions. They will implement these courses through their innumerable service providers who they have empaneled after much due diligence. So this is as far as the general degrees in media and entertainment are concerned. But this is not enough, obviously. So we have to move on to 2 or 3 other patterns. One second pattern which we thought of was, why not introduce these media and entertainment courses as electives? A BA history student from 2nd and 3rd semester, he can take, instead of taking sociology or political science as an option, he can take a media, he can take a gaming or a AR/VR course as an optional paper. And those optional papers, these colleges or universities can tie up with a vocational partner to offer these courses. And now this, we have already asked UGC to issue a formal clarification to the universities, permitting them to do so in respect of elective courses, because elective courses hold huge potential for such courses to multiply across the country. Very essential also. That is abated. This is the track 2 in the process of, skill embedded degree education. Channel 3 would come when we have central universities which have been declared as institutions of eminence. If they are, as per the IOE mandate and regulations, they are empowered to carry out courses, affiliate training partners certified by the Sector Skill Council also, and they are empowered. Only thing is the institutions of eminence are fledgling institutions which are yet to assume their full form. And when they do so, say a Central University of Hyderabad can empanel about affiliate about 10 to 15 such organizations properly vetted by the concerned Sector Skill Council and carry out these skill embedded degree courses. Now this will ensure that a whole lot of colleges join the net. That's very important. And what we need to institute is a proper due diligence exercise jointly to be carried out by the Sector Skill Council and UGC to see that fly-by-night operators do not get into the system. This is the most important. And the fourth most important thing is that the state universities have to be given absolute flexibility in terms of these elective courses as well as the full-fledged degree courses. So the last 2 which I mentioned is still work in progress in the Ministry of HRD. By the time we left them, these were the things which are these were in progress. This will upscale the skilling architecture in the country. Not only upscale it, but also align it with the education system. We cannot carry out a skilling activity in this country by excluding the education system from it. In fact, whatever you can do towards the manifold multiplication of skilling is if it is embedded into the education system. Or some very good skilling organizations can become in situ colleges in themselves through a proper process of recognition, like say a DigiQuest or something, if they team up with central universities. This is the work in progress that is going on at the moment. And as this industry evolves, I think in the future, we'll have to look at interdisciplinary courses and content being developed, like say media and entertainment along with the IT and ITES Sector Skill Council should develop some joint courses, because technology is changing very fast in the IT Sector Skill Council. So these tools which the media and entertainment adopts, they can be updated on a concurrent basis so that these course content also can be developed so that we don't lose out on the fast technological changes that are taking place in the IT sector. Then so also the beauty and wellness sector can piggyback on the MESC sector. I was talking to the CEO of the beauty and wellness sector also. Their makeup courses and all which are presently at the retail level, operating at the retail level, they can now be integrated into the film artists film makeup artists and so on, and to upscale the range of their activities so that a bigger range of options and professions are available to these skilled products. So all in all, the skill landscape is evolving still, and it is so is the education landscape. The education landscape has only realized that it has to join hands with the skilling architecture so as to make the entire system more relevant for employment. It's very, very important. And the realization is there. But once COVID came, things have slowed down a bit, and some of these policy developments have been stalled or maybe just postponed. I would not say stalled. They are merely postponed. And very soon we will see the activation by which an interactive process between the Ministry of Skill Development, Department of Higher Education, and the sector skill councils, these three will have to evolve joint guidelines by which colleges, service providers, such institutions of excellence in skills like, say, DigiQuest or Whistling Woods or anyone for that matter. So many people are doing work on a standalone basis and who are waiting in the fringes to jump into the mainstream and attain formal recognition and be a part of the education architecture in the country. Ultimately, skilling, only when it merges with education, does it acquire the full sanction of a very authentic process, because it's degrees which count in the international market and not certificates. So that is the last leg, last mile connect, which is still pending with the government. And for this, I had requested many sector skill councils, not just MESC, but also logistics and all, to continue their efforts with the Ministry of HRD through the Ministry of Skill Development. And very soon we are hoping to see some well-evolved guidelines by which UGC creates a proper vertical for skilling, in which the norms for recruitment of faculty will be different from the usual PhDs and professors and of regular colleges. You need to, in Nasiruddin Shah, for example, need not have a PhD if he has to give a lecture on somebody on filmmaking. It would be ridiculous to prescribe such conditions. Therefore, skilling has to be, the guidelines for skilling and trainers in skilling have to be devised as per the requirements and the merits which the industry generates and recognizes. And therefore, this transformation is the last transformation that is awaited. Once that is done, and once UGC creates its own skilling vertical, it's supposed to be a part of the new education policy. Last 2-3 months, we've seen a slight slackening in activity. Once this is done, I'm sure organizations like MESC will take the lead in their partnership with universities, colleges, and state governments will then be enthused to put in their might also, and to offer to coordinate with their own college system and the state university system, and so on, so as to carry this employability to a new level. Because there various estimates have been made as to how many jobs can each sector skill council generate. So Media and Entertainment Sector Skill Council, there were several, nearly a rough estimate was about 20 to 30,000 jobs immediately at call, if only you can generate the right people in gaming and so on. So also in healthcare sector, there were huge numbers. So all in all, putting all the sector skill councils together, we had about 4 lakh jobs ready on offer from industry. Only thing is, you require people with the right skills and not the general degree students. So that is why these are the little views that I want to share by way of the government's efforts and by what we have to do the road ahead in future. So the road ahead, it's a multi-stakeholder configuration. There are a whole lot of service providers. The service providers are the route towards carrying this skill-embedded degree education further, because no college can, in the short run, augment its capacity to meet the multifarious skill requirements, nor do they have the manpower, nor do they have the aptitude to start with. So therefore, it is a basket of stakeholders involved in the single task of raising employability in the country. And as we go along, more and more steps would be taken, we hope. So with these few bits, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I would love to ask one important question. According to KPMG report, which was published in 2017, that is for the media and entertainment industries, it is said that India, I mean, MESC, Media Entertainment and Skills Council, there is a mandate on MESC to create 1.2 million workforce by 2022. So, do you think is it possible, sir, within this?
The last slide.
There is a mandate MESC to create 1.2 million skilled workforce by 2022.
That's the mandate, fine. Does it flow from the industry? Do those figures flow from the industry demand?
Okay, sir.
If that is the mandate over a 5-year horizon, then the work has to start. That is why these 80 institutions, 80 colleges which have already been enrolled, that is an exercise which has been halted by COVID. It would have been 160 or so. These 160 colleges, towards meeting this KPMG generated vision, we already have about 160 colleges, and we have done it in terms of full-fledged degree courses. The industry would also require medium skilled, shorter duration skilled people. That we wanted to come through the electives, through the regular students taking electives. And then another set of students taking add-on courses in addition to their running degrees during the after college hours or in the summer vacation. They go through these 300 hours or 600 hour courses offered by numerous service providers, through which they can skill themselves. Now, towards achieving the Gujarat model can perhaps be followed by other states also, where they give coupons to the students. Prepaid coupons are given to the students, and they can go and to whichever service center in the list of authorized service centers. If it's DigiQuest, they can go to DigiQuest, get trained for 6 months or 1 year or whatever it is, and then the entire DigiQuest will be paid for by the government. These people have to just show the coupons. So the coupon system can possibly be introduced by the states also. Only thing is, right now, the numbers have to be mapped with the genuine industry demand. KPMG would have come up with a survey, but then if you see the first lot of courses have to commence, which are about to commence only now. You see that the employability profile and the industry response by 2022, we still have 2.5 years to go, 2 years to go, maybe 2 years to go. So we can definitely move towards that. I think Mohit Soni's work is going in that direction only, because once we get central universities to affiliate service centers and MESC to play a more active role, and also getting our students transnational skilling in transnational standards, we should be able to move towards that. I just said that 20,000 was a figure I gave for at that point of time based on a very rough estimate. So 2022, the 1.5 is definitely reasonable. We can work.
That's great, sir. And one more thing, sir. Under the current post-COVID climate, the higher education institutions may face an unanticipated attrition from students. So in such case, what is your valuable suggestion to students to continue education through online mode? Because many parents and many students are not yet geared up, or they are not yet, ready to accept the sudden change. So what is your valuable suggestion you would love to give to the parents or students of the entire, community?
This is a very, very challenging situation for everybody, parents, students, and then the institutions themselves. On the one hand, you have top-end institutions which are able to conduct exams, which are able to conduct classes and so on, IITs which don't feel the difference so much. Online adaptation is very easy there. As you come down to smaller institutions, state universities, state colleges, it's a huge problem. That is a problem which has not yet been fully gauged at the national level. I mean, no data is flowing. Although the problem is huge, it's humongous as we can feel it. But no data is flowing and nobody is talking much about it. But yes, it is almost like it is going to be a 0 year for a lot of students. And it is very dispiriting. On the one hand, it's the student. On the one hand, it is the employee jobs also have been lost, especially for the younger generation, the fresh entrants and so on. It's a testing time, and wherever they can take up online courses, they should take up while waiting for their exams or while waiting for their results. They should take up so many of these online courses which are on offer. For example, Google, one very transformatory exercise which has been started by Google now is that they have introduced a 1.5 year course in data analytics. And they have very clearly specified that those students who take this 1.5 years course in data analytics do not need even a formal degree to get a job in Google. So, and you don't even need, you just, even 12th sometimes is not a necessity. So straight away after that 11th standard or whatever, students can just write this exam, online exam, and get a job in Google, which will again function mostly online. So the entry level jobs into Google have fully been transformed. Now this will be taken up soon by Microsoft also, by Intel also, by so many others. This will slowly lead to, in a year or two, where a sector skill council like MESC, you will also devise a course, you will also devise 1 or 2 courses. Keeping the education system aside, you yourself will devise certain courses in gaming and say, invite students directly to take up these courses, certify them, and get them jobs in the industry with which you are aligned with, associated with. That is also foreseeable. These are the transformatory changes which we are seeing. A lot of people have been wanting to do this perhaps for a long time, and they've piggybacked on COVID. Google, for example, has clearly taken advantage of this COVID framework to introduce this. And I have a feeling, I have this gut feeling that this is going to be adopted by many other organizations, because if they wait for the formal education system to change their curriculum, content, and so on, 2-3 years will pass by the time that is over. And therefore, they have jumped into the fray themselves. So students should explore these kind of courses, where students who are already studying in engineering colleges are doing this Harvard University's online course in data analytics and so on. So online is a way forward for students in waiting. Students whose plans have been aborted midway, they have to mitigate the hardship in some way or the other.
And one more thing, sir. Does MESC or MHRD have any forecast regarding estimated enrollments for the year, for the academic year 2020? Like, post-COVID uncertainty is prevailing. So, what do you think? I mean, would there be good influx of students in higher education programs, or for that matter, certification courses or any other courses?
MHRD, I've just a couple of months ago, I left MHRD. I'm now in METI. So I would not like to comment on what the ministry is doing at the moment. But yes, you already seen the announcements in the papers and also on the JEE. It's going to be held in September and so on. Everybody, practically a semester has been lost across the education system, which is going to be covered by collapsing some courses into the second semester, taking advantage of not giving the summer vacation. They'll cover it up. God willing, the students will not lose a year. The problem is with the students who have just completed placements. Those are the ones that are going to be affected. But this coming batch of students who have lost a year, that's a separate challenge. This is also a separate challenge. So both have to be simultaneously tackled. It's a country that is taking a hit. It's a world that is taking a hit. So we can't isolate one problem and say that what is the solution for this. No, you have to take the entire tide into account.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for that insight. So now I would love to ask you a question to Papi Reddy Garu. Sir. Hello. Papi Reddy, sir. Are you there, sir? Shall I continue with, I would love to continue with Jayesh ji. Sir, we all know that the image policy is your brainchild, and it is stated in the image policy that animation, gaming, VFX, entertainment, and allied industries are the emerging verticals in the ICT sector. And globally, these verticals have been in focus in the recent past also, and they are believed to have a significant share in the ICT and entertainment industry in the future. So what is the scope of generating, huge employment that is, which is coming in the way?
JSG, your mic.
No, but Professor Papi Reddy Garu is back. Would you like to finish?
Yes, Papi Reddy Garu's mic is on. Right.
Please continue, Jayesh. Please continue.
Okay, thank you. So, good evening, everyone. I'm very happy to be participating in this very important webinar. Everyone is apprehensive and concerned about what is the fate of hundreds and thousands of students or would-be students? Will the economy shrink so much that tomorrow they will all be left to fend for themselves? So obviously the impact on the economy and different sectors on the economy is still being observed. It is likely that some sectors definitely will be affected and some sectors may take a longer time for recovery. But at the same time, let us remain optimistic and let us hope that many other sectors of the economy are able to at least tweak their business model and they still remain relevant and they still continue to meet the needs of all the stakeholders, etc. So the media and entertainment sector, at one point in time, there was a belief that since because of social distancing norms, etc., theaters will not open, cinema halls will not open, and obviously film shootings which require many people to congregate at a particular location, those things may not happen. This industry will be impacted. But fortunately, the industry has found some solutions. For example, we now see that lots of new content is being posted on OTT channels. So even if the theaters are not currently in operation, there is an outlet available for people to continue to do this content creation and at the same time meet the livelihood needs of people who are dependent upon that sector. Similarly, the importance of public service broadcasting at this point in time has also gone up. As we all know, a scenario like this COVID, which has lots of implications on healthcare, we also see that lots of false information or unverified information is floating around, and definitely lots of people who are careful about these matters, they look up to sources which is more authentic. So public service broadcasting definitely is going to come back. And for a large number of people in our country who don't have proficiencies in language or literacy, etc., animated content in the form of delivered through a public service broadcaster, that also is likely to find lots of space. So some definitely the future of the media and entertainment sector, including particularly the animation, VFX, etc., it is certainly not bleak. People have to rethink on their business models, etc. But my personal optimism is that the sector can be turned around. Within this sector, there is a subsector which we all know, which is the subsector of gaming. Now, this sector, even in the last 4 months, has kind of multiplied enormously. And we all know that when you have lots of time at your hand, these are some of the things to look up to. I can share my personal example. I mean, I am not a very big participant in online gaming programs and all, but these days, since I also finished my work early, I have started playing some of these online games like Ludo, etc. And definitely, I see many other people who are going to take up online gaming quite a lot. So this is one sector. If you are able to design creative games or games which are engrossing and take the skill levels of different kind of users and are easily accessible, don't consume too much of bandwidth or too much of space on your devices, etc. Definitely, these sectors are going to do well. So if that is the context in which we are speaking about, that the sector is not going to be that badly hit, and perhaps by tweaking its business model, the sector can actually come back or even do better than before, then obviously the sector will require people to run the systems, to run the content development, to run the marketing channels, the user interface, and so on and so forth. And as Subbarao Garu pointed out, fortunately, the flexibility that was required. So normally, if someone has to become a professional and then hope to find employment, so far there was just one conventional way, that you participate in a organized, structured educational program. You do up to +2, then do a degree course, and then if you want higher level skills, you do a post-graduation course and some certification courses along the way. But as he has explained, lots of flexibility is being considered in the system, and once it is actually rolled out by the Ministry of HRD or by other state councils, that will give a big boost to the students, because we have seen this particular sector, the animation, gaming, multimedia sector, the skill requirements vary right from very basic skills which for which you don't really even need to have a degree. If you're a good animator, for example, if you have a good skill in making sketches or drawing, which of course one can refine by participating in some organized or a formal program, but in some ways it is also God gifted. I mean, not everyone can paint or draw, but those who can, their skills can certainly be improved. But if you have that minimum kind of skill, you can also pick it on the job. So right from that end, where no education is required, just that skill is enough, to very sophisticated knowledge of user interference or lots of this graphical interface, etc., which requires definitely participating in an organized or a structured program, etc. So a whole range of jobs are available. And again, lots of signaling happens to the potential students. For example, I'm at the threshold of making a choice whether to go into this stream or that stream. Lots of signaling does happen from the macro level players, which includes government and the sector skill council. So these are two important entities which do have an important role of providing that signal that this is an area where the government is committed to. We want to support it. We want to create, get new jobs created. We want to get high paid jobs created, which means that I'm not relying on the domestic players alone. I also want international players to look up to India, and therefore I offer support, I offer policies. And fortunately, from the very beginning, Telangana, as all of us know, is a state which came into being 6 years ago. From the very beginning, from day one, so to say, Telangana has given that signal and commitment. Many other states also claim that they are, for instance, they are supporting this sector, they are doing something, but I find very few others, literally no one else, who is putting their money where their mouth is. So in Telangana, as Mr. Basi Reddy mentioned in his prelude, that we are investing an enormous amount of money to build what is called the Image Tower. This is a 600,000 square feet facility, and it is all available for the animation, gaming, VFX, and multimedia industry, which will have lots of common infrastructure, all the common facilities that you require to develop content or to create content or to create a game, etc., or to shoot something in a virtual manner. All those facilities you don't have to invest individually. So as I said, very few states today are bringing this kind of infrastructure, creating institutions. We have set up a center of excellence on animation, gaming, AR and VR with the help of the STPI. STPI is a MeitY affiliated institution. They have created multiple centers of excellence in the country. And when they asked us, the Telangana government, and which area excites you, which area would you like this center of excellence to come to Hyderabad, we were very clear that we will opt for animation, gaming, AR and VR. And the center of excellence is up and running. Of course, again, because of this restrictions, COVID, etc., staffing and all has become a bit slow. But once it is running full-fledged with all the leadership positions filled up, I'm sure they will make a very important difference, and they will be the kind of interface from our side, from the government side, with the industry, with academic institutions, so that right kind of courses are designed. And as I said, they cater to everyone. Suppose someone wants to stop schooling at 10th class itself or 8th class itself, because there is some drawing talent which people notice he has, we can put him in that stream, and we can then pull him up or fast track his career progress in this manner. So I do see a very strong need for partnership between national government, state governments, the state's IT department, the higher education council, the industry, and the sector skill council, to ensure that a few pockets in the country are identified, which are the lighthouses for everyone else to come forward for this.
Thank you very much, sir. And along with that, sir, one more thing. The central government has, approved 100% FDI into animation and gaming industry, with the condition that it should be in line with the RBI guidelines. Along with that, certainly some other governments, like if we discuss about Maharashtra government, they have also come up with a specific policy in their IT and ITES to encourage and the growth of AVCG sector. So the government authorized again 20 acres of land in Goregaon Film City to establish a national level, center of excellence for animation, VFX, and gaming. Same like that, the government of Karnataka also, they have come up with a specific policy for animation, gaming, and VFX, which comprises of establishing a center of excellence again, and to encourage the education domain again by strengthening digital art centers in their state, in fine art institutions. So what are the measures, again, like when we speak about government of Telangana, what are the kind of measures we are taking to encourage that talent pool, to fulfill the gap of that talent pool? Because it's believed that this sector is huge, it has got huge potential to generate employment and surge ICT exports, which would result in socio-economic development of the nation. So to fill this huge gap of employment, actually, what are the measures we are taking as a state?
See, I already spoke about the most significant measure, which is to spend almost 1,000 crores to create that facility. I mean, if you combine what measures Maharashtra, Karnataka, and other states are doing together also, it will not reach up even to the half of what Telangana is doing. So, as I said, no one is putting their money where their mouth is. I mean, there are great policies. The policies look very fabulous on paper. But is any other state investing 1,000 crores, so to say? And I mean, I'm using 1,000 just as an indicator, not that a state cannot invest 1,000 crores. But the point that lots of infrastructure development, talent encouragement, we also have the flexibility. Our universities which affiliate these institutions which are providing skills. I am, for example, the officiating vice chancellor of JNTU for almost a year now. We have affiliated lots of small institutions who want to offer courses on this animation, VFX, etc., and given them that flexibility to run the courses. Typically, the affiliation program of JNTU requires the institution to share part of the fees which they collect with JNTU. But in many of the cases of animation, VFX institutions, we have relaxed that norm. The fees which they pay is lesser than the fees that they share is lesser than what the fees others would have shared. Similarly, there is a sister university called the Jawaharlal Nehru Fine Arts University, and of course, when Professor Papi Reddy Garu speaks, he will tell about more about the universities. They have also affiliated many institutions. Other good thing which I see is that our state has very recently passed the Private University Act, and the response has been very positive. I have myself been a part of the committee which has scrutinized all the applications which have come under the Private University Act, and 5 of them have been cleared, permitted in the first cohort. And I'm also personally involved in an advisory capacity in 3 of these 5 universities. And I can share with you that all these 3 universities, the private universities who want to set up this academic session, etc., all of them have decided to offer program on in this area. So apart from government universities, private universities also will be there. So I don't see any reason why the talent pool availability in Hyderabad will be found either in terms of numbers lesser than what the industry requires, or in terms of quality of a lesser caliber or of a lesser standard than what the industry requires.
And sir, what is the scope of offshore delivery in these domains? Sir,
I could not follow you. What is the question?
What is the scope of offshore delivery of services in these domains?
Yes. The scope is enormous, and again, the live examples are very encouraging. There are, for example, I mean, there are quite a few such companies, but I would like to give example of one particular company, which is a global leader in animation, VFX, etc. In fact, they are behind some of the biggest Hollywood blockbusters. This is a company called Digital Domain. This is a company which is founded in Los Angeles in Hollywood, and a very renowned Hollywood director and producer. The person who directed this movie called Titanic, James Cameron, he's the founder of this company. So it was told to us that about a few years ago, 4 years ago to be precise, they were looking at India And because they have that Hollywood background, they were told that in India, the film industry is in Bollywood, which is in Bombay. And they automatically went there. And apparently they even took some space. They liked the Bombay film industry. But then when they were in the process of establishing their setup there, they realized that not everything is perfect. There are lots of deficiencies. The cost of operations are very high. The kind of talent which they wanted is not available. Ecosystem is missing. There are very few players. Government at that point in time did not have any policy. That is in Maharashtra. And someone advised them that Telangana has come up with a new policy. Hyderabad already has a vibrant ecosystem for information technology, and animation, gaming, etc. is also emerging to become an important sector. Why don't you look at Hyderabad? And some people also advise them to look at Bangalore and Pune. So they did their own due diligence. They went to multiple states and cities, but finally they were convinced that the strongest value proposition for them is available in Hyderabad. And today, 4 years have gone by, they have grown 3 times bigger. I remember I had gone there for the inauguration of their facility. There were some at that some about 100 odd, some 300 odd people who were working there. They are close to 700-800 now in 3 years time. And more of Hollywood work is now coming to Hyderabad. And there are quite a few others who are now watching this model very carefully. How are they able to, first of all, maintain the quality? See, there is no compromise on quality. Many people think of India as an offshoring destination only for cost reasons. But examples of digital domains and electric art and quite a few others show that this can also maintain the quality which you are used to getting in Hollywood, etc. Similarly, the productivity is higher. As all of us know, Indians tend to work harder. They are more diligent. So the bosses in Hollywood are very happy that more work is coming, quality work is coming, and obviously the costs are lower than it would have been if they had continued in Hollywood. So India has tremendous offshoring opportunities, and I'm happy to share with you that both individual companies as well as associations, just as you mentioned that there is a animation and gaming association in Telangana, which is called TWAGA. There are national level associations also. So associations of other countries, from Korea, from China, from Japan, they are from France, from UK. They have also visited us. They have interacted with us. They are popularizing the opportunities or the advantages of Hyderabad to their members, and I see that also happening in big numbers as days go by.
Thank you very much, sir. And now I would like to ask a question to Papi Reddy Garu. Sir, with the gaming and animation industry rising high globally, to accomplish the goal of creating the required talent pool that we are discussing about, the serious lack of talent pool which we are going through. So there is a need to motivate students and parents towards opting creative education for a secured and bright future. So what is your message to parents and students about this, sir? Because there is a social stigma prevailing in society. Like Subbarao sir said, everybody want to go for engineering or medicine, but nobody considers this as a serious education. So what is your message, sir, Papi Reddy sir?
Good afternoon to all of you. I'm very delighted to join with the Richie's webinar. Now, come to the question. The Telangana state government has been encouraging this animation, gaming, visual effects, and other related issues. And the Honorable Minister, the K.T. Ramarao Garu and the Jayesh Ranjan Garu, the Secretary to the department, they have been working very hard to promote this industry in Hyderabad. And we have certain advantages in Hyderabad. We have a very strong IT base in Hyderabad. Not only that, we have the big scene industry. Tollywood is there for the creativity and other the resources. Thing is, now whatever the earlier the value system, now that has been changing slowly. Now the animation, gaming, visual effects, this field also is attracting a lot of talented students in Hyderabad and in part of Telangana and Andhra also. And our education policy in the state, certainly State Council of Higher Education or the government also we have been encouraging to take up this field as a very seriously. That is why we have instructed to the JNFU college and JNTU to go some a holistic way to take the requirements of the colleges, those are coming to this field and offering these courses. Earlier, we have some problem with the ACT and other things, and we have sorted out that problem. And there is a very huge scope in Hyderabad to develop these institutions and the industry also. Because we have two things. One is the IT and another is the cine industries there. And some of the very talented people are also there, like Basreti, and they have been promoting this industry in Hyderabad. And the State Council and government, we are also participating in a big way to help this field. Because this is one of the emerging areas in the higher education where the jobs and the market is very huge. Really, the international market is the $400 to $500 billion. At least we have to take some pie or some percentage of that the global market. We can create a lot of jobs and we can lot of the business activity and in the value of business also. That is why we have recognized that this is one of the important areas, and we wanted to promote in whatever manner the industry or the institutions they wanted.
Thank you very much. And one more thing, sir. So now that we have understood about the huge employment opportunities in AVGC sector, also the post-COVID repercussions, which have unleashed the importance of online education today. So now we are witnessing that the job-oriented skill courses have got high significance. And there is a tremendous increase in demand for skill-based courses, of course, but due to the lack of awareness among parents, because parents still have many doubts about the courses available in the visual arts domain. As Subbarao sir said, because they are not trusting. I mean, for that matter, I have interacted with many parents. They sometimes ask me, what is JNFA University? Is it a government university? Or is the degree which offered by JNFA University is valid? So I have to explain them. See, the JNFAU is a state-funded and state-run university, which is being run by the government of Telangana. It's a most prestigious university, and it's the first fine arts university established in India, as well as. So to clear this, ambiguity and doubt among parents, I think we should do something, maybe an awareness campaign, or to create that, awareness among parents to let their children opt these courses. So what is your message, sir, regarding the universities?
As far as the JNFA is concerned, it is a state university, 100% a legal university, recognized by the UGC, ACT, and all other relevant bodies. And as far as the degree of the JNFU is a 100% of the valued and legal the degree. The parents and the students should not have any apprehensions about the validity of degree. That is a 100% the legal and valid degree. The second thing is the JNFA is a first kind of university in India. It is also a very prestigious university in not only Telangana, at Indian all India level also. Therefore, whatever the apprehensions or any these doubts in the minds of the parents or students, we can open any website or something. They can post any doubts or any clarifications or any this thing. We can readily give the clarifications also. That's not a big problem. The second thing is I hope this animation, gaming, and the visual effect industry has a huge potential. Some of them may not aware of this emerging area, but this is a very bright future for this area. And now whatever the value system or whatever the earlier they have the opinions about this field, now they have been changing. And some of the bright students are approaching the State Council of Telangana. They have been inquiring about what is the future, what is the fate of this course. We have been telling to them this is a very best and the good course for the career for the students. But thing is, they should have some the creativity, not for the ordinary course or any other course. This course needs the students' creativity. That's number one, the qualification for the students, not for the any formal education. If that aggregation or that inkling is there, definitely I've been telling to all the parents, better to send the girls or boys to these the institutions. They can go to any extent. I've been telling so many examples of this, where the animation, the field is doing, the visual effects or the gaming. And one thing is, in the context of the COVID-19 also, now the opening of schools is a very big challenge for the society. Therefore, the animation, the industry should play an important role, because they can prepare some lessons for the at least the school level. That can be very useful for the students. They can take the lessons from the video record or some online, whatever with the mode of this thing. But the animation industry can also not only entertainment or other things, it also creates some value for the school education also. And the need of our is to look at the animation industry for this angle also, because the near future, when we are going to open up the schools, particularly for the first class to the fifth class, there is a problem. Therefore, for this the group, definitely I request all the people here to look at it as a matter. How the animation industry, we can create some of the creativity in this field, and how to teach the students for this section. In future also, even after October also, I don't know, the schools may open or may not open. If at all that are open, the first to fifth class, the very small kids, the governments or the society may not allow to them to go to the schools. Therefore, I appeal once again to look into these issues. And the coming age is online. And now what we are needed to strengthen the online system in India. Still, we need the bandwidth. We need the lot of the cyber connectivity. We don't have still most of the areas. We don't have still the net connectivity on proper way. Therefore, the Subbarao is there. I request the central government should throw some light on this issue. Still, the large parts of India don't have a proper net connectivity or proper this thing. If we want to promote the online education or this kind of the developments, we need definitely the infrastructure should be strengthened, and we have to provide the helping the activities, whatever the need for the public. In our state, we don't have the either laptops or the tabs. If somebody wanted to start the online classes, the most of the students, we don't have the net connectivity or these basic minimum instruments. Therefore, both the central government as well as the state governments to look into the holistic way and take the socio-economic conditions of the large sections of the people. We have to take a bold step or a serious step to strengthen the online education, involve the technology, involve the skills. The coming days are belongs to the skill. Without skill, the education will not survive. Therefore, if we want to go for the skill education, we need a lot of infrastructure development in India across the states. With this kind of the initiative, I hope that central government and state governments should take.
Thank you very much, sir. One important thing, sir. We have heard that you want to accomplish an important mission to empower students with Earn While Learning program in your state. So please explain about this program, sir.
Now the system is a very old system. Wherever the opportunities are there, particularly in the field of the animation, gaming, and industry, they can both they can learn and they can earn. A part of their mission. Sometimes they may work for the industry and they may earn for their livelihood. At the same time, they can also learn in their institutions, in their the curriculum, whatever that is there. And the Hyderabad is the best place for the both students to learn and while they can earn something. That is there. But the thing is, the industry should accommodate the requirements of the students. Still, Jayesh Ranjan is there. We have been trying to very hard to request all the industries to open up their gates to allow the students to do something in the form of internship or in form of other the things. Still, industries are not that enthusiastic or not that cooperative. Still, we have been facing the problems for the past 3 or 4 years. But we have attained some extent. Some industries have agreed for our proposal. Still, we have to go a long way.
Thank you, sir. Now, I'd like to ask a question to Basireddy Garu. Sir, it's a known fact that Indians are innately creative and creatively talented. So, there is the kind of students who take admission into these courses, as our Honorable Chairman Garu said, like everybody cannot do these courses. Those students who have got that creative flair or creative talent or innate talent can only take these courses. Could you please share something about this?
Sure. Thank you, Syed. Good evening to everyone. Well, I've been in this teaching right now for about 7-8 years now. And with the help of the state governments, both before AP and now even Telangana, we have been trying to educate the parents. We have conducted, Jayesh Garu was also involved in the past in a channel, this thing. So it's one thing I have realized in the last 2 years is the kind of students. In the past, the students who never get any good admissions into good colleges, engineering or medicine or something like that, they used to come to us because they just wanted a degree. But now, in the last 2 years, I have seen, if I look at the students I have, the first and second year students are even working part-time, close to 5 to 6 hours a day in the evening hours after the classes. So that's a very good opportunity. That means even socioeconomically backward parents also can afford education of their students on their own without any government help. And because of the requirements in the educational side, where there is so much of educational content is being done in a 3D model format or a 2D model format for even from primary school on even to the colleges and going forward to the AR, VR type of an environments. And a lot of our students, I'm amazed that first and second year students are getting employed. Of course, the third year students are coming very little to the college now because they're working more outside. So I've talked to Papireddy Garu also on this aspect, that the people, if they're working outside in a good company, they should be given some credits in the practical side rather than attending to the college, because they're earning the money and as well as learning in the real field. That's very, very important. So I think we have a bright future. I mean, we have a good government supporting us and we have a bright future.
Thank you very much, sir. And now I would like to ask a question to Mohit ji. Mohit ji, could you please throw some light on India skills and wealth?
Sir, you will have to repeat the question. I can't hear you properly.
Could you please throw some light on India skills and world skills?
Okay, good evening, everyone, and thank you, Syed and DigiQuest, Basi Saab, everyone here to give us this opportunity to be a part of such a enlightened gathering today. Talking about competitions, I think Syed on its own makes a big impact on everyone's life. I believe competition is something which all of us have grown with together, whether it was a running competition, whether it was a painting competition, or whether it was our competition in our own environments, whether it is workplace or our living spaces. I think competition makes a real difference for the life. And when we talk about India skills, world skills, these competitions are a way apart. You know, the benchmark is way too high. Because when you talk about anybody who goes up to the level of representing a country, that candidate is the best identified candidate across the country, who goes out and showcases the talent, the skill which they have. When I talk about these India Skills and World Skills competition, which happens every year, alternative years, these candidates who are there are selected from a very ground root level, which means we reach across to the deepest of the possibilities, identify those people who have a creative bent of mind, who have a lot of technology driven aptitude, try to nurture them, groom them, and put them across various stages of competitions, starting from a local level to a state level to a region level, going on to a country level, which is called India Skills, and post which these selected candidates go and compete across in most of the international competitions, which are organized even before the World Skills competition happens. So these candidates, I would say, are those ones who are not just capable of participating and showcasing their capabilities on the creative and the technical side, but during this process of grooming them for the competition, we give them a complete new life cycle to develop their abilities and their capabilities. They are put across with very difficult conditions, which they would be really seeing when they go international. You think of a candidate flying from India, where we all know we Indians are lovers of food and entertainment. We can't live without good food and without entertainment. When somebody goes across to different countries and they don't get the food, that's the biggest tension which they face, I would say, as a candidate, because they are very new. The age group of these candidates is hardly 18 to 22, 23. And apart from that, the tension, the pressure which they see when they compete with 30 plus international candidates, there has to be a substantial training, not just towards the art, the technology, but also as a candidate to be groomed mentally and physically. And that is why the journey which we cover with these candidates, from training of a model to putting them in a very strict production environment, is something which makes them capable of being the best of the lot which the country produces so far. And that could be very well seen with any of those candidates who have represented not just in World Skills, but even to the level of regional skills competition, that the industry has been waiting to identify and pick these candidates and offer them such exciting packages, which I would say in the animation or in the VFX or in the gaming industry would happen only after 5 years of experience, which any candidate would have. So I think that's the level of these competitions, and we are glad that MESC has for the first time created history in World Skills Kazan 2019 by winning a bronze and a medallion of excellence. Two of our candidates who represented the country were the best of the lots we identified from the group of more than 8,000 candidates who were identified. And we were very proud to be a part of that forum there. And I think it was a great opportunity to see India flag rising out when we won a medallion of excellence and a bronze. So I think I would love to have more candidates coming in this year. We already have reached across to 15,000 plus candidates who are looking forward to compete for World Skills competition through a structured process. And coming years, we want to integrate it as a component to school and higher education, which means a dream of putting across a school program incorporated with something which can motivate these candidates to come in as a competitor for either junior skills and then nurture them towards the higher level of World Skills competition.
Thank you very much. One more thing. Let me congratulate you for winning a bronze for India. You made flag high, and wish you all the best in the future also. In 2021, again, the World Skills competition is expected. So, under your guidance, we have also been working and trying to, get the message across among students and try to motivate them to, train themselves to be able to participate into the World Skills competition. Anyway, one more thing, sir. Sir, yes, sir. Basi sir, want to say something, please, sir.
I just want to make a point here, Soni ji. Jayesh Ranjan ji has come up with a plan from 8th grade onwards. Catch them young is, when we are going through these policies and all that stuff. I happen to have met him several times. he come up with a plan that he wants to start this fine arts classes from 8th grade onwards. And of course, the difficulty is that there are not that many people who are trained to teach these kids. So there are some ecosystem problems and all the stuff, but he has got a vision that catch them young, because when we know those kids at the younger age, if they can show their talent, definitely they will seek into these colleges and all that stuff, and then world skill competitions and all that stuff. So we have a good supporting administration is what I want to let you know, sir, in Telangana.
So Basi Saab, I would say, I after hearing Subba Rao sir, Jayesh sir, and Papi Rao sir, I was really excited to see that it is flowing from the top now, and I think it's a great opportunity for us as an institution, as a council, as an industry, to grab upon this opportunity and utilize it to the best. I'm sure all of us have done the painting classes in our school days. We have made Mickey Mouses, we have made the sunset scenes, we have learned tabla, we have learned guitar, but none of us really thought of taking that as a serious career opportunity those days. Now, the industry has opened a big way. There is no mobile where the communication of a graphic is not represented either on a WhatsApp or a Facebook or an Insta. Everyone today is using their mobile phones only because, not as a communication tool, but as a source of entertainment and a source of communication. So it has taken up a new shape now. And I would say one big thing which can make a significant difference for us is to bring a dream of integrating our modules starting from school education to higher education. And if that happens, the moment we are able to accomplish that, trust me, the skill component in media and entertainment industry, whether you talk about 1 million, whether you talk about 3 million, the demand is much higher than that. Right now, we as an industry are just merely working as an outsourced destination. There is a huge scope for us to get into IP creation. There is a huge scope for encashing on merchandising. Today, when I go to a multiplex, or I would say 3 months back from now, when I used to go to a multiplex, it is not just Hindi movies. It is Telugu, it is Tamil, it is Odia, it is Bihari, it is English. It's every kind of movie which I see, which means the regional market is growing substantial. The demand is growing substantial. Each region is becoming Atmanirbhar. And that's where I see the equation of Atmanirbhar Bharat, whether as an individual, whether as a studio, whether as a state, whether as a region, whether as a country, media and entertainment can really make a big difference for everyone to consider. Today, with an investment of 50,000, having one camera, one laptop, and one printer, I can earn 50,000 rupees a month just by shooting small photographs. So the opportunities are awesome. The income flow is amazing. Only thing is, we have to, like every one of us agree, we have to make the market aware about it. The new generation parents know the power of digital entertainment. They understand it. And I think maybe 5 years from now, we will see more candidates flushing towards media and entertainment industry rather than any other sector. And media and entertainment being a horizontal sector would not just cover the scope to limit it to media and entertainment, but would also be a part integrated with whether automobile, whether civil engineering, whether any kind of format of education which you see today. I think that's how I am looking at it from the futuristic perspective.
So without graphics, there is no industry, sir, today. If you want me to put it very simply, without graphics, there is no industry exists over there. And with our genetic, what we have, Khajurahos and Ellora Ajantas and Rameshwarams and all that stuff, it's in our genes, and we can take it forward. There is going to be a medical student is going to learn on a virtual body with fluid dynamics working in his blood vessels and all blood vessels in there, and doing a laser operation for their better education in the medical industry rather than dissecting in a dead body. That is going to happen. India will become a hub. It's just like the Y2K for us right now, sir. Once upon a time in '97, we used to talk about it. Today is nothing but a creative engineering, sir. It's creative engineering going forward.
Yes, completely in sync with you, Basi sir, on this.
Thank you very much, sir. And one more thing. Mohitji, you have been in the industry for past 19, 20 years. Could you please tell me what is the average salary one animator or a game designer can expect as a fresher in this industry?
Okay, Syed, I would say this is the most trickiest question to answer.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I started my career in 1998 and I used to do photograph conversions black and white to color. That point of time, I used to charge 500 rupees for each photograph just by converting them from black and white to color. Okay. Then we started shooting marriages, events, festivals. Then we started making short commercial ads. Then we migrated to making 3D walkthroughs, virtual environments. That question was always being asked, and this question will always be asked. I would say a graphic designer today, if I have to hire even at my council, I am willing to pay 50 to 75,000 rupees as a starting salary if he or she is really a graphic designer.
Yes.
The problem is we take this industry from a very different side. We believe salaries don't come in this industry. While think of a filmmaker who has shot a film using his mobile phone for 5 minutes, it goes viral on YouTube. Think of the revenue he can generate only through YouTube. Forget any other source of distribution. So this starting salary question, I would say this industry has faced over the couple of years and will continue doing that. But for making 1 second of animation, a studio gets anything between 1500 rupees to 3500 rupees. And it can go up very high as well, depending on what quality, what level, and what aptitude is required here. This is more of a freelancing market. Today, a graphic designer would not like to work as a graphic designer in a job. You would like to work as a freelancer and earn a milestone. So I would say that is the biggest challenge which we are facing in this industry today, not to groom the talent, but to retain the talent. The moment we are able to retain the talent in a production facility, we will have better opportunities for not just being an outsourcing destination, but creating our own content and showcasing the world. Why can't India outsource? Why India has to be an outsourced destination? We have more stories, much more content, much more creative guys than we can even think of. So I would say this is an amazing situation we are in today. The market has opened up. OTTs have made an example to bring those movies in light which were made 5 years, 10 years back from now and could not see the light of multiplexes because we don't have many screens in the country. It has showcased small time filmmakers. Now you go on any OTT platform, you see a movie from 10 minutes duration to a web series which has 50 episodes. You would have not seen them before because you were already seeing a movie either on a television in the dish format or in a multiplex when you were seeing it in a big screen. Now the era is changing. Your mobile has become the most biggest form of entertainment for you. With the new era of AR, VR, you will experience something which we have not even thought of. So without going to Disney, if you can feel the roller coaster ride sitting in your place, I think that's the best of the environment and the best of the experience you can have in your life. So this is the way we have to think of it. The new audience has to understand today, whether it is online learning, whether it is any of the mode of education, it has to be blended mode in a certain format where the best of the instructors can be brought together, the best of the training methodologies can be brought together. And this COVID has opened up a platform for all of us to evaluate not just the progress and the bandwidth we have in our country, but also to bring a lot of international exposure at a price which we could have never thought of. Today, somebody talking from Disney, Pixar, or DreamWorks is not a dream. We can have 1,000 people listen to them, talk to them, conversate with them, and learn through them. If we would have been in a pre-COVID situation, we would have spent a fortune to bring them to India and would have been able to cater only to 100 or few of the people. While today you can reach to masses. So quality education has become very easy to be delivered now. All that is required is your self-learning mode, which has now to be enabled. If you have your own self-learning mode enabled, you as a creative guy, as a techie guy, can do wonderful jobs.
Thank you, sir. And one more important thing, sir, here. Briefly, Subbarao sir has already spoke about this, but I would love to hear in detail about this particular aspect. What is the kind of support MESC is offering to the universities and educational institutions to provide better education and proper evaluation of the students to meet the current industry standards?
So, Syed, first of all, I would say I'm blessed to know Subba Rao sir personally, and connected with him, because without him, the dream of bringing our media and entertainment programs to higher education would have never been possible. I think the way he has supported MESC and other sector skill councils is something which, even if I keep on saying every minute, would be less. So I say, when we look at higher education, it is an integral component in it is something in blood. So if you are not a graduate, you believe your education is never complete. So while people say school education is compulsory, I would say higher education is a kind of a social and a society stigma which we all look forward for. Now, when this higher education has to be standardized and has to be annexed and integrated with the skill component, there was a lot of understanding which was required, because every university, every college has a different aptitude and a different attitude to look at media and entertainment industry. We did series of programs under the guidance of Subba Rao sir called Manthan in 3 locations, Hyderabad, Mumbai and Delhi, and touch base with 800 plus academic institutions, and the talks are going on enormously every day. We have reached to around 1400 plus institutions right now. And the belief is that the moment we are able to integrate standardized modules in higher education and link our vocational training to these universities, plus the colleges may be supported with a very strong industry network, it will lead to something which can be dreamt of, the best crop to be produced in the country so far. So we have integrated 3 years of these modules. We have built them with a very close stitching of industry, followed up with on-job training exposure, bringing in a lot of apprenticeship in the module itself, and leading these students through an innovation and an incubation facility to develop more as entrepreneurs rather than employees. So think of, if 80 academic institutions train on an average 30 to 50 students also, you are talking about a huge network of small time and big time and mid time entrepreneurs who would not just be employing people, but will be bringing such realistic and such different form of education and content to the country, which will make the M&E sector grow multifold within a short span of time. So it will be actually a burst of knowledge, creativity, technology, and content, which you will see the moment these first set of graduates passed out from our higher education associated institutions.
Thank you, sir. And a final question to you, sir. Can you please explain me about the Vidyadan initiative?
So Vidyadan is a brainchild of our Honorable Chairman Sri Subhash Ghai, and with his contribution to both the media industry by and large and to the education industry is well known. We know him not just as a filmmaker but as an educationist as well. His vision was always to make education, quality and affordability come together, and that is the entire concept of Vidyadan. It's bringing the Guru Shishya culture back into the era of digital learning by bringing the most known experts, not just nationally but internationally, to offer free workshops, free online training modules to every aspirant in the media and entertainment industry. We have conducted more than 96 webinars and workshops during the last 3 months, and we have reached to 2.5 lakh people through the series of our Vidyadan workshops. Now we are looking forward to bring an international series of our modules, and that is where, if you go onto our Vidyadan website, you will find the last 5 workshops, and the henceforth coming onwards are with a huge touch of international people, international experts who have been brought in. There is another set of programs called Creative Warriors and a complete learning platform called Vidyadan Gurukul, which MESC is going to be launching most likely in a month or 2, where we will make it not just as an affordable and a quality learning exposure and a platform, but will also make it as a content marketplace. So tomorrow, if a student has made a small short film, which a bigger OTT platform is not willing to host, Vidyadan will give that platform to them to showcase that skill, to showcase that movie to the world. And tomorrow, they would be earning because of the subscribers we have who would be willing to pay 5 rupees or 10 rupees to watch that movie. If it is being uploaded in that format, I'm sure you can think of not just one side, the learning, but also the kind of revenue and the exposure which can come through this Vidyadan platform for every aspirant in the media and entertainment industry and the professionals who would like to upskill or reskill themselves.
Thank you very much, sir, and thank you everyone. Such a wonderful and learned personalities which I have interacted today. So you have given a great information which could be enlightening for everybody. So I would love the panelists to discuss any other important thing which we have missed out. I'd love to keep it open for a discussion among yourself, sir. Please.
Just one request to Subbarao Garu is, sir, please relieve us from the shackles of UGC and AICTE. It is making our lives a little difficult as an educational institution academy I know of. And we've been through a lot of hassles. For the last 3 years, we suffered a lot. And JSG knows about that, as well as Papi Reddy Garu knows about that. So we have to, with the MESC, if we can make this council to be eligible to, authorize the colleges in this field, it will help us better. And it needs to be monitored better also, because there are some Tom, Dick, and Harry institutes also are starting and doing nothing. And that's also, it's getting a bad name. So there's got to be streamlined with some policies and streamlined with some quality of it. And higher education, Papi Reddy Garu is very much interested in monitoring this and doing his best. And JSG is supporting us as much as we can. But from the central government, from the UGC and AICTE, we run into some situations. When we write a letter, also, they don't respond in time. I mean, Tisha wrote it, university wrote it, they don't reply, and then we get into a limbo. We can't even take students to admit into our colleges for the last 3 years. Every year till September, October, we don't even know whether we can take admissions or not. So we need some help from MHRD, sir, in this aspect, and educational department.
Sir, please unmute.
To address this issue, some degree of flexibility has already been given by UGC. Now, as far as colleges are concerned, as far as UGC is concerned. Now, for the training partners of colleges and training partners of universities, a formal framework has to be evolved. And in this direction, MESC, on behalf of all the 600 plus training partners, training service providers that it has given a joint letter to Ministry of HRD, to the minister himself, which is under examination in UGC, when I last heard it about a month ago. So this is something which is very important, because as far as institutions of eminence are concerned, for example, Central University of Hyderabad itself, it's an institution of eminence. It can very soon, once it starts full-fledged operations as an IOE, it can take all of you as affiliates. And colleges, if you're a training partner of some college, you can become full-fledged service providers for that particular central university. What is right now not permitted in the larger interest of the education system is that service providers getting affiliated to some university at random, any university, that is still not permitted, because we cannot, not every university will be, following this in a very streamlined manner. And how much ever be a regulatory apparatus that you set up, there are bound to be misuses in this kind of an arrangement. So a proper framework has to be evolved by which make one body, like say the MESC, accountable for all the institutions which are getting affiliated. Because if the skill provider is going to come through MESC, it takes the overriding responsibility for also the course content, the admissions, the certifications, the assessment, etc. So you devise a regulatory framework, and that has to find its way into the UGC regulation, the deemed university regulations, and everything. It's a big task, and this can happen only when a skill vertical is established within UGC. This was a recommendation made nearly 1 year ago after a policy meet in Mussoorie under our earlier secretary, Mr. Reddy Subramaniam. A very dynamic way, many measures were announced. Some of them are still at the examination stage. This I admit is a major policy measure. If we have to meet KPMG's recommendation, KPMG's observation of 1,20,000 jobs being available in the MESC sector, and we need 1,20,000 students. That's a humongous challenge because we don't have the trainers to train 1,20,000 students to start with. So we have to make a huge beginning. And the reason why we are not able to make a huge beginning is some of these UGC's facilitative regulations, which have not yet fallen into place. So we are actually conceptualizing this and presenting it. In fact, I've been talking to Secretary Skill Development also, Praveen Kumar. All are good people with positive intentions and so on. How this can find its way into PMO, because in a meeting of the SGOS, sectoral group of secretaries held sometime in December, Prime Minister had clearly said when the topic of education, when the education presentation was about to be made, he said, leave education aside, it will take care of itself. Let's focus on skilling because that's what is going to get us jobs. So it was a very, very strong and clear message sent forward by none other than the PM himself. So therefore, there are papers which are moving right up to the Prime Minister in order to facilitate this kind of a mechanism. And you can expect something good in the few months to come. I can tell you that.
One more request, sir, when you are on the line. Since you are so close to the ministry and the Prime Minister and well, I mean, what I'm trying to say is the department and all that stuff. As Papireddy Garu has mentioned, please help our Telangana state to have a T-fiber in a full swing going. And sir, there are billions and billions, with a B, sir, billions and billions hours worth of educational content needs to be created, sir.
Yeah.
India can be a hub, and with our supporting Minister KTR Garu, Papireddy Garu, and Jayesh Garu, trust me, it can happen faster here in Telangana. So whoever is working, early bird gets the worm type of a thing. Since we have been working on this, if we can get some support from you, from the central government, to make this move forward, we would really, 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 really appreciate it, sir. And a lot of children. Yeah. Are you a Telugu gentleman, sir, if you don't mind me asking?
Nenu pakka Hyderabad vadnandi.
Acha, namaskaram, sir. Namaskaram. Subbarao garu.
Brought up in Hyderabad, studied in Hyderabad Public School, Begumpet.
Sir, help us, sir.
Tappakunda.
Thank you.
So many issues have got concretized now, and looking at the competence of Mr. Jayesh Ranjan, quite a few people talk very highly about him. Subramaniam, in particular, said a lot of high things about him, and I can now see the way he has been taking various steps on this issue of skills. Coming into the forefront of policy attention is something which we'll work towards it in Delhi also. I'll definitely put in my mic too. And
thank you, sir. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, sir.
Any last words, sir, JSG?
This has been a very fruitful and very rewarding discussion. I have understood a lot about the MEBC's perspectives, national government perspectives. Of course, Papireddy Garu and I, we interact regularly. We are quite clear on what direction we have to provide in the state. One point which you mentioned, Basireddy, about catching them young. We should now, in the post-COVID kind of a scenario, on how the education, teaching, learning will happen in a blended way, partly online and partly through work.
You got muted, sir.
This can be a very good opportunity to introduce some kind of introducing art education also from class 7th onwards or class 8th onwards. So let us discuss this in a separate conversation and push this agenda. This seems to be a good time to do that.
Thank you, sir. And thank you all, everybody, for participating in this. And Mohitji, I'm sure you will share it with the rest of the country, with the 205,000 subscribers you have. And we need to encourage more and more youth all over the country to take this field because opportunities are huge.
Sure, Basi Saab, and I would be glad if we can connect with Jayesh whenever he has his time separately to discuss on the school level programs and see how we can take it forward from there.
Anytime JSG has his doors open, anytime. When I send a message, he says, come on over. So he has got no hiccups about all these things. He is all for good things.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Subbarao.
Thank you. Namaskaram.
Thank you very much, all. Thank you very much. And I would love to address the audience. We all have learned a lot about the growth of gaming, visual effects, and animation industry, and huge employment opportunities in it. I want you to share this message with others too. Thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Mohit. Welcome.